How tough is it to get those nice 2-year-olds back in the same type of form at 3?
I think it can be tough on a certain type of horse. I guess it depends on how many soundness problems the horse had as a young horse, how he's managed. Generally we get caught up in how good a horse is, when they're winning and they're doing well. I think sometimes we get caught up in the moment. We keep racing a horse past when he should be put away as a 2-year-old, and then they don't come back and make that great 3-year-old that we're all looking for. So I think a lot of it has to do with management.
But overseas, they don't race horses young really at all. Is that because the money's not available?
I think so. I mean, we've set up our industry that way. All the money's young, and there's so much money at a horse being done in the end of his 3-year-old year to become a stallion. And it's really a gamble for a guy to take a horse to 4 and 5-year-old year. So I think that a lot of the great aged horses we see right now are horses like Shark Gesture that went to stud and maybe didn't get the book that they were looking for and come back and been great aged horses. So it just makes it tough because there's so much money on the plate at the end of their 3-year-old year.
Are we racing our 2-year-olds too tough, or how does that work?
Well, I don't think we have much choice. Like if they're very good at 2 and they get a chance to earn a lot of money, you go forward with them. And sometimes you pay the price at 3. A really top horse, will get through it, and he'll stay sound and go on and be a great 3-year-old. But a lot of times they get stretched out enough at 2 before they're totally mature and they don't come back as good at 3, and it happens a lot.
So in a sense, we're sacrificing our horses at 2 in a way.
Well, sometimes we are, but like looking back at the world champions like Albatross and Brett Hanover and the horses of old, they raced at 2. And I tell you, it's so hard to earn money with them at 3. If you've got an exceptional 2-year-old, you better go ahead and race him.
I actually like racing 3-year-olds. Conditioning and training and a lot of other things come into play more with a 3-year-old. 2-year-olds kind of go on their pure talent, it's very easy to hurt them, and that's why you see it's difficult to bring them back at 3. If they did maybe a little bit too much at 2, and especially how they end up their year, you seem to me like it's a big factor in how they're going to come back. If they do a lot at 2 but still finish the year off pretty good, they have a good chance of coming back. But if they finish the year off bad, it seems to me that it's tough to come back.
There's one thing always comes down to, it depends on the horse. And, Annihilator could do it 2 and 3. Peace Corps could do it 2 and 3. Napolitano was a great horse. He couldn't do it very much at 2. Great at 3. Just depends on the horse, It's their makeup.
How important is it the way they finish their 2-year-old year, in your opinion?
I think that's pretty important. That's a good question. If they finish out really sound and strong, you think things will go a lot better. If they're beat up pretty good, which there's a couple I think about last year, and it's going to be tough for them.
But the temptation as an owner, when you're buying a nice yearling, is to stake him at 2, maybe sometimes a little too extensively.
Exactly. And I kind of was trying to do that myself last year with one I owned, and I made up my mind I'm not going to put him in a Breeders' Crown. It was so late, and because I want a 3-year-old, I think that's where the more money is.
Vary. They all change so much between 2 and 3. Some that you do everything right with at 2, you bring them back and just don't function at 3. Others have their problems, their soundness problems or whatever. It's a tough step. It's a tough step. Those good horses that can come back at 2 or 3, they're the exception, not the rule. That's for sure.
How about All Speed Hanover coming back at 3?
He's been super. Yeah, I haven't touched wood. I haven't had a problem with him. As I say, that's more the exception than the rule. We had Major and Art there last year bringing him down. We never even got him to the races. So, that happens more often than not.
Joined by Frank Antonacci. Frank, a lot of nice 2-year-olds last couple of years haven't made it back at 3. I'm thinking Il Villaggio this year, last year Major and Art, Nebula Penizer. How tough a task for a trainer is it to keep that 2-year-old on top of his game at 3?
Well, I think a lot of times we take for granted bringing these good 2-year-olds back at 3, and we think it's just 1, 2, 3 set a schedule, and that's what it's going to be. But obviously with like those horses you just spoke about, those these 2-year-olds are race hard and often at 2, and sometimes they have aches and pains that are hard to overcome at 3. And horses like Donato and Dewey and Muscle Hill that just made it look effortless just shows you how great they really were.
How about the temptation when you're at the yearling sales to stake a 2-year-old, sometimes maybe even overstake them a little bit?
Well, I think that's a trap we all fall into. You know, it's the staking game is probably one of the most difficult decisions that a trainer, owner, has to make. And you can get a little overzealous and point some of these 2-year-olds a little earlier than they're meant to.
Two different ideas. Like if there's lame at 2 when you bring them back, usually they're lame at 3 in the same spot. But I also know it's real difficult. The year I had Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe, I think all the top 10, the best anybody else ever did was make about $170. And they're all very good trainers, very good horses. So it just shows you how hard it is to bring them back, even with talented horses.
It is pretty tough. I mean, they got to stay sound. They got to not go out and do something foolish in the field, or it's tough. I mean, it's not that easy. It's everything got to kind of fall right into place and everything. So I say it's pretty tough.
Yeah, it's like this winter was a little tough. Tough winter, and you never know how they're going to come back. Some horses you raced hard as a 2-year-old, and most likely you're going to pay for it a little bit as a 3-year-old. But it depends what kind of foundation they have.
You've had the 2-year-old champion like Pampered Princess and Passionate Glide, and you brought them back at 3. But there's others that go the other way too. How frustrating can it be with the trotter?
Well, of course, it's high expectation, especially if you had a good horse, that was racing. Everybody expect them to do well as a 3-year-old, but it's a lot of pressure. You got to get these horses right, and hopefully, but this is tough racing today. So 2 seasons is very difficult.